Hello and welcome to The Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two you've read. I'm your host Scott and I'm not alone. Toby's here too. This episode we're talking about Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. It's going to be a pretty spoiler heavy episode, but if that's okay with you, continue on and I'll see you on the other side. Exactly the same in Halloran and they would have got all the renowned.
No, definitely not. I think for me, La La Land is I really enjoyed La La Land.
And so much of that is based on the chemistry, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that chemistry already existed between those two characters, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, because they'd been in movies before together. So it was, yeah.
And I've heard her sing in Beauty and the Beast. I don't think she's a good singer.
Emma Watson, no.
I don't think she's a bad singer, as it were, but I musical singing is in theory a level on its own.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I guess I remember when Sweeney Todd came out, and a lot of actors were just flat out pissed that Tim Burton just gave it to Johnny Depp and Helen Bonham Carter. Like, can they sing?
Yeah.
And even Tim Burton was like, I just trust Johnny. I asked him if he could sing. He said he thought he could. I trusted him. Like, you want to audition that? I know at that stage it's like, how can you ask your friend to audition? But
yeah, they're kind of
I guess that's the
each other's pockets, right? Well, completely.
Talking of musicals, they normally send me to sleep. I mean, we haven't done a good segue in ages. Damn.
No, we haven't. I thought you were going to come with me with a good segue for this one.
Well, I don't know how to. It's like 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. How do we get from La La Land to Stephen King's Dr. Sleep, the novel?
Oh, just like that.
Yeah, I really like that
twist.
I really like that red shirt they wear in La La Land. Were they drinking?
We did.
Rum?
We almost had a really good one.
Drinking rum in red rum. Interesting.
Well, we did almost have a good one. We were talking about theme tunes and famous theme tunes from movies, and you mentioned that when the trailer music for Dr. Sleep kicked in and it had the music from The Shining playing over the top of it, you were like, oh,
yeah.
And then I like Blade Runner, exactly.
And the Blade Runner
famous theme music. Dr. Sleep, segue. Thank you very much.
Smooth
for 3. Yeah. So Dr. Sleep.
Toby, you've
been waiting
for
this one for a while.
You've been on about me this book for ages. So now I have read it. Shut the F up.
Yeah, move on.
Firstly, you're a maniac, Toby, and you definitely keep me on my toes. Here's something for the listener. About 2 weeks ago, Toby was, how's it going? I'm like, yeah, good. I'm just halfway through listening to the Shining audiobook. He's like, oh, cool. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, no, good, blah, blah. He's like, haven't you read that? I'm like, yeah. I read it. This is like the second time in the audiobook. We did the podcast, remember? He's like, I was so confused. Why? I was like, because I started reading Dr. Sleep. And in the first few pages, it's like, it's a direct carry-on almost. It's like the next day or the next few weeks from The Shining. And I was like, I'm just going to go back and with the audiobook, for me, depending on how work is, I can get a good 4 hours in a day or something. So that's maybe 3 days to do the audiobook. Toby texts me, I'm going to paraphrase here, but something along the lines of, what, you've read it and you're doing it again? Yeah, just to refresh me. You dick, you're just procrastinating. Get on with it. You don't need to read The Shining. Just read it.
I think you'd read the book twice, listened to the audio pass before, and now you were doing it for the 4th time. I think it was something like that. I was like, oh, come on, just get on with it already. Very much like that, yeah. It
gets better, I don't want to go into it too much because there's a whole hour, interesting what we think of The Shining. And I skip back a few episodes. But the first time I read it, I was a bit, it's okay. It's just different to what I expected because I was a fan of the movie. And now this is 3 or 4 time I read it. It just gets a bit better each time, which is just really cool. Just the drama of it is heartbreaking.
Yes. Completely agree. I've only read the book once, but I have seen the film a couple of times. And the TV miniseries, obviously, those have stuck with us for several.
I feel like there's going to be another one sometime, huh? Shining TV or movie or miniseries.
Oh, but maybe. I'd be surprised if anytime soon, but maybe.
So in 2013, Stephen King whops out a sequel, as it were, to The
An
Shining.
unexpected sequel to boot. Nobody really saw it coming.
I think in the little intro, he says he was doing some promo book signing for 11.
22,
Yeah,
33, something
JFK
like that.
thing. And someone was just like, "Hey, what's Danny up to now?" And he said he's always wondered. He's always had it in him, like, you know. I think who's that other writer? Is it Bret Easton Ellis? Sometimes tweets like, "Oh, I think I've forgotten his name now. American Psycho character."
No, I don't know.
Like there was a spate where he was just tweeting like, "I think he'd be listening to Coldplay in this era. I think he'd be watching these TV shows." Just sort of like, where would he be now? And I guess Stephen King had that urge, or that feel, and he just sort of like made the decision to do a sequel to The Shining. That is Doctor Sleep. You said you read this. You were already into King at this stage.
Yeah. No, very much so. This was one of the first. This kick-started my. I'm going to collect first editions. At this point, I didn't really have an awful lot of Stephen King books. I now have over 63.
Was this before or after the incident in the shop with the box of books?
This came directly after. I bought this because it was a sequel to The Shining.
Oh, okay.
And then this run of going into Oxfam and there just being a box full of Stephen King's being bought in at the same time as me.
Universe was just poking Stephen King at you.
Exactly. And then I pursued it. So yeah, Doctor Sleep. It's the reason I now have a bookcase full of Stephen King first editions, which I absolutely adore. So what do you think? Where do we go and how are we going to kickstart this Doctor Sleep episode?
So you were excited to go into this. There was no trepidation because of what The Shining was, or
no.
The Shining is what, his second or third book, written in the early 70s.
Yes, sir.
And now he's doing a sequel. He's been through an entire life experiences.
Yeah.
He's sort of gone in and out of alcoholism. I guess he was an alcoholic when he wrote The Shining.
Yes, he was, and a drug addict.
I don't know his age then or now, but he's grey. He's grey haired on the little picture on the back of the book. Obviously, like, I don't know. He's
had a few life experiences for sure.
In his mid 70s, late 70s.
Yeah, he's 73, 74, something like that.
Crikey. He writes faster than I read. I don't know. Like I said, as much as I really enjoy the book, more as I go, The Shining, the film is just super classic for me.
Yeah, and
it almost felt on par with. Well, it exactly is on par with someone just going, "Hey, I've just done a sequel to The Shining." It's like, ooh, after all this time as well. It's like, do we need this? Do we want this? Is it going to be any good?
Can you stick the landing?
Right. And I think for me personally, I've talked a lot about I really like a lot of his old books because of the times they're set in. And now we're very much in the 21st century. But I think we're just set in, I don't know, 2006 or something.
Yeah, Danny's very much a middle-aged man, almost the same age as Dad was in Shining, I think. So do you want to take us through the story? Yeah,
let's do that. We just interrupt where I'm wrong, or if you have something to say. Don't let me waffle on, because I just finished reading it this week. I took a train to Toronto. It's about a 5-hour train, and I had to get the same train back the next day, which puts me on like 10 hours of train time.
Yes.
And I read like 2/3 of this book in those two sittings.
Incredible. Yeah, I haven't read it since 2013, but I have seen the movie twice. I went to the cinema and watched it, and then I watched it. I have it on Blu-ray at home. So I've watched it again since then. The director's cut even.
Is that more gory or just longer?
No, it's just a bit longer. There's a few more fleshed out moments.
Oh, okay. Is it one of those nonsense things where it's like, you could have just put this in your movie?
No, I enjoyed it. It just...
Can you see why they cut it out?
Yeah, you can. It didn't make it. It didn't give it baggage or anything, but it was a bit more snappier than the theatrical version. But because I enjoy the tale so much, I'm happy to spend any longer.
It looks like the Lord of the Rings extended. It's like
Exactly.
sometimes there's actually scenes that take away from what's about to come, but it's just more time in that world.
Yeah.
So we basically open on Danny, Wendy, and Halloran in a sort of the aftermath of the events of The Shining. Within the book The Shining, they have the hotel explodes, and Halloran, Wendy, and Danny sort of escape being mauled by the hedge animals. The dad, Jack, sort of just about turns good at the right time to save Danny, and they just sort of take a snow sleeper, trackle out, and they're just pretty beat up. Wendy's sort of like a borderline broken back. They're all just sort of come out of their own personal war, physically and mentally, and they get a little payment settlement that just sets them up. And I guess it's nice they're just going to say, like, Wendy's lawyer thought they could, if they held out, they could have got twice as much, but Wendy just rather, we're set up enough for what we need, and let's get on and put this crap behind us.
Put it behind us.
And so I guess the opening 10 pages, maybe 20 pages, are sort of a montage to get us into adulthood. Halloran, oh no, they're not. What am I talking about? We find out that the ghosts from the hotel are not gone and dusted. Danny just every now and then will get this inkling. He will see the ghost. I think he just tells Wendy, like, don't go in the bathroom. And so, like, she calls up Dick Halloran, and he comes and he teaches him this trick. He's like, so the shine is like, I don't know if it's here or later in, but they say these ghosts, it's like they should go to hell, but they know they're going to hell, so they're going to linger here. And they're just drawn to people with the shine. It gives them a slightly longer ghosty afterlife. And Danny Strong with the shine just sort of attracts them, especially the ones from the hotel.
Like succulents.
I guess he made them homeless by blowing up their house. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I'd hold the guy who blew up my house if I was living a nice afterlife. And it was a nice ballroom party. Anyway, so Dick teaches him this trick when he's a kid. It's like basically like the mind palace.
Yes,
go to your mind palace, as it were, which is a nice thing for King. I think he's done it a few times, but it doesn't feel overused. I know Dreamcatcher, for example, has a very strong theme with one of the characters locked in his own mind palace. It's kind of the best bit about that book. Anyway, so he says to, like, picture a lockbox. I think he buys him a little mini lockbox. He said, now I need you to picture one mentally, and here's what you're going to do. And he sort of becomes like a mental Ghostbuster. That's not true. He doesn't go around collecting them, but anything that can come to him, he can sort of put them in this lockbox and lock it, and just they're done with. Yeah,
sort of traps them in the back of his head in a chest.
And which is cool. I guess we're getting like an expansion of what the shine is off the bat, and it's going to run. If you are like, so tell me if this is just too just obscure referencing all over the place. If you're one of those people that love the original Star Wars films and what the Force was, and then when these new films came out, they're like, oh, I don't know, they can touch stuff now. Oh, they can fly in space, and just pissed off that they were trying to expand. And you just want it pure. Then this, I don't think this book will piss you off, but they're going to run to those levels of what The Shining is and can do. It's gonna like tenfold what you thought it could do from The Shining.
Yeah. I mean, The Shine has definitely been a thread that has been expanded on, not just in The Shining and Doctor Sleep, but throughout Stephen King's novels, I would say. Because a lot of people have abilities that can be attributed to The Shine. It's just different facets of being able to shine.
Right. And the book definitely gets into that, the levels that people have. And I guess one thing it makes clear is that most people with the shine don't know. It's such a low level, they don't know they have the shine. He attributes it to, like, I bet he can just, you can ask him where you lost your keys and he'll know. And he'll think, everyone just thinks it's intuition or he has a memory, but that kind of thing is the shine.
Yes.
And then we jump, like, that's a really cool opening. I really like that. Like, I think I said when we read The Shining, I think Halloran was my favorite character. I hope he's in this one, I said. And you said, I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
So we sort of jumped to Danny, I guess, in his 20s. we jump about 10 years.
Yeah.
We go from like 13 to maybe 25.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a low start to the book. Danny has basically succumbed to his alcoholism.
Yeah.
He's
fallen
a
into the same
drifter.
trap as his dad, basically. Yeah.
Wendy has passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Off screen, man,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. Certain characters deserve better in this book. Wendy being one, to die off screen, as it were.
Kind of makes sense, but
I mean, I don't know.
For me, she was nothing special other than the moments she had in the first book. Outside of that, she was just a normal person, and therefore should go the way of a normal person, which is quietly into the shadows.
Yeah, but we're not there for that moment. It just, Wendy died some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best we get, and we will get some heartbreaking moments with her a little bit later, which I'll come to.
Mm.
And yeah, to Danny's just drifting. So for the first, 200 pages, incredibly beautiful. I love that first quarter of this book, as it were, the first third. It's not montaging, but it's just Danny drifting, trying to overcome his alcoholism and just failing at every hurdle. He's sort of misdemeanoring, getting into bar fights.
Doesn't he meet that woman? Is that in this section?
Right. It just hints that he has his dad's anger. I think one thing picking up coming off the audiobook Shining was just tiny little phrases he'll use. I don't think they're a wink or a cheeky wink or even like he was exactly like his dad. It was just nice to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sometimes he'll only use it once, but it's enough.
It's heartbreaking. I thought that opening part of the book was very distressing, heartbreaking, mournful, because I personally walked away from Shining really rooting for Danny, and never ever envisioning him going down this route. So to find him at such a low ebb at the beginning of this book was really quite sort of like,
and it's a long stretch. It's most his teen to young adult life. I guess it's that thing. Like I had a friend whose parents smoked quite heavily, and he had a brother, and he was just so anti-smoking because his parents were heavy smokers. But his brother sort of picked it up. I guess there's two ways. Ideally, I wanted to picture Danny like never drinking anything. I know the dangers of alcohol. I'm scarred for life. But I guess him being sort of John Constantine style haunted isn't going to help. I guess he doesn't have to deal with it quick. And I think you get the sort of wink that the Shining wanes with age. Like for the long time, it almost feels like he's not using it, or it's not. Yeah. It doesn't have anything to do with his life. It's not. He's not cashing in on it. It's not affecting him.
It's almost like the alcohol and the drink. He's using it to subdue the shine, basically, and he has done for so long that it's almost non-existent anymore because he has buried it so far under a pillow of addiction. Okay.
That's interesting. I guess I didn't pick up on that. I guess part of me thought maybe like because he's losing his shine, there's this subconscious thing about I was special and now I'm not. It doesn't say that anywhere in the book. It's just I think a part of like the trauma of everything he's been through. So there's something I'm actually not clear on when they say addiction is hereditary. I don't know if that's
factual.
They don't literally mean that, do they? They just mean if your parents are users, you're more likely to use.
I think mentally? I don't know. I can't really speak authoritatively on it, but I would speculate that if somebody in your family is susceptible or easily susceptible to substance abuse, then there is a high likelihood that those same afflictions may afflict people
but that it's in the genes.
Yes.
Okay, I guess I have heard that. I guess I didn't know if it was like a poetic, if you know what I mean, like if they meant literally or not. I wish I'd Google that. Let's move on quickly. Put science stuff out there. That's completely wrong.
Well, if our listeners have anything to say on that, please add it into the comments. Our listeners are probably the alcoholics we're talking about. Well, just you introducing our listeners.
Yeah. So one night, I don't know, is it Colorado? I think it's funny being the Long King reader. There's so many like roundings. I'm like, did he pick this because he likes it, or is this a little the stand?
Have you mentioned? I'm not sure what you're about to mention, but are you going to mention the moment with the woman and the kid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's basically picks up a woman at a
Spoiler alert.
bar. He just sort of wakes up, blackout, blacked out night. Sort of pieces it together. He's in like some sort of cheap apartment, like sort of empty, not a slum, but certainly not a nice place with some woman. As the memory comes, he's got like bruised knuckles, and he's just gonna I'm gonna slip out because I just feel gross. Who is this woman? I don't know. And then he notices all the money in his wallet is gone. He says, I just got paid. Did she rob me? What is this? And then he just sees like coke all over the table. And then he has the memory of kind of getting into a bar fight, going with this lady to meet a drug dealer, and just, the night went crazy from there. And so he just, like, he's down and out of this stage, as it were. So the money is quite important to him. So he's like, can I scoop up this coke and sell it back? But then I travel a lot. I don't want to get caught with the coke. That's the last thing I need. And so he sort of justifies it to himself that he's going to steal from her. He finds her purse and he finds like $70. And he's like, the coke was probably her idea. And at that moment, like a young toddler just sort of like peeks his head out of a door. And like literally, he's got his hand in her purse. And then he's like, oh, Christ, what's going on here? Is anyone else home? Who is this toddler? The diaper is like, I don't know what the term
sagging
is.
off the
sagging
legs,
stuff. It's neglected child. And then the child like goes for the cocaine, saying candy. And he's like, so he picks the baby up. I think he just puts it in the bed with his mum and sort of, I guess, cleans up, puts the coke on the shelf. And he just has this moment of like, okay, I need this money, but this is like a poor woman who's probably also a drug addict, alcoholic, with an infant child that's neglected. I think he sees the food stamps, so he does this ridiculous what's it called when you tell yourself it's okay? He does this ridiculous rationalization that like she doesn't need the money if she's got the food stamps. But we all know he knows this is bad, and this is like a new low. And so I think he takes like 50 and leaves 20. And he's like, oh, I didn't do the bad, like, that's for her part of the coke, because he had like hundreds the night before. And this moment is just going to haunt him, as it were. I think this is just a representation of the lowest his alcohol takes him. You sort of get the sense that not exactly this, but this is the sort of thing he's been doing for years now. But that particular, just seeing that baby reach for cocaine, seeing that woman just passed out, stealing her money.
Is there an illusion that she might be dead?
No.
Okay.
It sort of comes up like she'll, when he puts the baby in with her, she sort of turns around and cuddles it.
Right.
And there's this weird moment where like they actually look quite sweet, despite the fact the baby is just covered in shit. She's blackout, coke drunk. The place is a mess. There's cocaine, So later on, I think it's the Shine will sort of tell him that she and the baby died. Nothing direct because of this incident, but I guess they just lived a rough life. I think an ex-abusive boyfriend would kill her, and I can't quite remember it, despite the fact I read this week. But they both die, and that just sort of puts more spin on him. Like,
haunts him even further.
I guess he says like he was in a hole and he couldn't even help himself. But this particular memory is the ghosting, and he does it really well. It instantly put me in a memory of The Stand, when I forgot his name, when the kid who's like a rock musician sort of sleeps with him and runs out, and it's like, you ain't no nice guy. But for the rest of the book, this character who's just been not necessarily like Danny, not a bad guy, but not a good guy, but just very, very ignorant of others, very using person. Like for the rest of this book, this one character will just have this "you ain't no nice guy" echoing, and I think his mum is like, "You're a taker, Larry." Larry. That's the one.
Yeah, we go.
I think just I don't know. I'm not saying he's reusing any ideas. I mean that in a nice way. It was just
completely.
It's these haunting moments that come through this book. That what is it, 650 page book, and it doesn't feel overused. And I guess it's a nice way to sum up his years of abuse. Because this is sort of the main instigation for him to turn around. Eventually, he ends up in a small town. He's sort of, I think he's an orderly and a janitor, but he keeps getting caught drinking. So he just has to roll on down the town.
Yeah.
And eventually he gets a job in this little town. It's like a little train driver. No, there's a little train with a normal driver, a full-size driver.
Yeah.
And I think he's an orderly. I think he's just sort of handymanning around the town, but mostly orderlying at a hospice. And one night he just has a breakdown. It's either the little train driver or the doctor he's become to know. And he just says, I need help. He's just like downed a bottle of scotch one night when he couldn't take it. Like, he can always pull himself out of it in the moment. He can go even a few weeks without it at times, but eventually he'll break.
Relapse, yeah.
I will say, when he rocks up in this town, he does see Tony for the first time in years. He just has a vision of Tony waving at him from a window. And I think that just hints that, I guess, The Shining has pulled him to this town. Like, there's just a slight force, very much like the gentle force pulling them towards the Overlook. There's I guess a reverse, I don't know what you call it, but like a force pulling him to this little town. Yeah. And so he sort of breaks down, and I really wish I wikied the characters. He breaks down in front of this guy he knows and likes, but he doesn't know that well. And then herein starts his AA recovery. And I think we jump like 3 or 4 years.
Yes, he definitely spends a fair few years in this place.
Because I thought it kept jumping to flashbacks, but I think I was just mistaken. Like I said, it was a very fevered read of this for me. And that's where he gets the nickname Dr. Sleep. So he's working at this hospice.
Looks like an old people's home, isn't it?
He is not a doctor. He's just an orderly, but he's basically using his shine to help people pass on gently and quietly. There's like a cat with the shine, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, a cat that can scent people who are about to pass over to the other realm. And will basically turn up at their door and reside on the foot of their bed. And Danny uses that as a cue to, this is the person that's next going to pass over, almost.
It feels like one of those moments where everyone's like, how does he know they're going to die? I know they're going to die. A cat goes sits on there. I think the cat's got something wrong with him and he's killing off our people. That's what I would take from that. So this sort of brings us into the next stage of the book, but I guess I'm just repeating myself. I love that first half of the book. Yeah, I think it's just written pretty sweetly. It very much reminded me of my favorite chunks of Blaze.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I just really like that sort of
character study.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even nice that he was an alcoholic, but that down and out, that traveling, is not, I guess, a sort of road trip-ish.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'll ever read this book again, but I could definitely see myself just sitting down and reading that chunk again, for sure. For the next 100 pages, we get this slow switch. Then after that, I would say the entire book switches gear. It almost goes into movie mode. It's like, man, I can. It's a testament to his writing that it's so vivid and picturesque, and B, it's almost like he knew it was going to get made into a movie, knowing how he feels, or at least felt, about The Shining. I don't know. Everything just feels slowly different to, like, I'm not reading a screenplay, but he's written a movie for the second half of this book. But for that little transition, where are we? He starts making contact with a little girl.
Or she starts making contact with him more, isn't it?
Well, that's true. And actually, I think this happened before, but he doesn't understand it, because I think it's when she's a baby, she spikes out and reaches him, but he doesn't quite know what it is. And then in later life, when she's 12, 13.
Yeah.
I guess because the book is set up until the last few acts, the book is set over a good few years. I think she grows a bit. They sort of find a way to tentatively communicate. She can write on, like, the chalkboard in the orderly, I guess the night manager's office.
Yes,
just the office where all the patient stuff is, with chalkboards and stuff. And that brings us to Abra.
Yes.
And Abra. The True Knot.
Yes.
And it's almost like the book kicks in. Like I'm saying, like, it switches gear. It's almost like he didn't want to write this. Like, I don't know how, not nervous, but what was his thought process writing a book to The Shining, right? Like, do you want to do a Ghostbusters and repeat the same beats? Are we going to do another haunted house novel? Are we going to, I don't know. I had no idea what this is going to be. All I knew about this was that he's called Dr. Sleep because he helps patients. I think I did see the trailer before I read it, and there was this vivid image of a woman with a hat.
Yeah.
I didn't know if she was good or bad at that time.
So you didn't know much about the True Knot before you got to the True Knot?
I didn't know anything about the True Knot.
Oh, wow.
You want to tell us about the True Knot and Abra? I think people are a bit sick of hearing me speak.
Well, so we've established that Abra is a 13-year-old girl who is very adept at using the shine, and is very, very shine heavy.
She's powerful.
She is extremely powerful. She's like the Luke Skywalker, to go back to your reference. Star Wars.
She's Professor X.
Yeah, she is that. Professor X is a good one. Yeah, she's that strong. She's well endowed with the shine. And the True Knot are basically a dwindling group when we meet them, of people that feed off of the shine, in essence, and people that have the shine, and they extract the shine, inducing pain on the people that have the shine. And the more pain that person with the shine experiences, the stronger the extraction.
And I think they're all kids.
That is in essence. Sorry?
Prepubescent.
Yeah, that's where the strongest people with the shine that get them from is kids. Yeah. We have quite a harrowing tale of, is it? Billy? I want to say Billy, but is it Billy?
I think so.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's almost like Stockade Billy. Don't know if it is actually tied to that, but Billy, who is a small kid, again 11, 13, who has some of the shine, but not as strong as Abra, is in no way connected to Abra. This is how we're introduced to the True Knot, and he is a fan of baseball, and he's taken and brutally murdered in a very similar way to the kid in The Outsider. It's kind of reminiscent of that from my recollection.
Just tortured. Just any kid being tortured is pretty brutal, but tortured for the sake of, I don't know, they're hurting him. There's no information extract, right?
It's like the extraction of the screens in Monsters Inc.
It is like that. It is an adult version of Monsters Inc.
So the True Knot are led by Hattie. So what's her name?
Well, she kind of takes over. She's high ranking. I think there's a few above her, but yeah, she's sort of.
Is that her name, Hattie? Oh, Rose the Hat.
Rose the Hat.
Yes. And she picks up on, she senses people that have the shine over a large distance in space and time, and can pick. And she is, in essence, leading this group and trying to sustain their existence by capturing and inducing.
She's like a radar. So the True Knot, it gets a bit confusing how many there are, because every now and then there's just, you take, and then there'll be a list of names I've never heard, like 10 of them. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I don't know if there's like 50. I'd say there's like 50 of them.
If you go by the film, there's around 25 in total.
Okay, that sounds
left
right.
At this point, because a few of them do die along the way.
And this is where it took me a long time to adjust to this. Shine basically turns into like superpowers. Each of the True Knot basically brings something unique with their shine. One of them can sort of disappear from the shine radar. One of them has the shine radar. But considering how many of them are, we really don't get to know that many. We spend a lot of time with the True Knot. We spend a lot of time with Rose, and I think we're introduced to them. So we get this woman who is like sort of using her shine powers to just rip people off. She can put people to sleep, I think.
Yes.
So she sort of like picks up men at bars, sort of gets in there and says, "You want to take me to the cinema, don't you?" So she can go see a movie. And then when the guy gets sort of too heavy on her, she'll just like, "You feel really sleepy, don't you?" And the guy will just fall asleep. And then she can just like just take their wallet and their money and slip off. So this is how we introduce the True Knot. They find her, and they basically knock her out, and she wakes up like in a camper van in the desert. And they're like, so what's going to happen is we're the True Knot. We, I don't know, OD'd on the shine. We're like beyond. If someone with the shine is like 90% human and 10% shine, we're like 90% shine and 10% human, kind of.
Yeah.
We basically go beyond. Some of us are like hundreds of years old. You'll start looking younger. You'll live forever. You'll feel good. You have your powers are sort of ramped up. So they say to her, she's too old for them to harvest the steam, they call it, which is when you kill them for the life energy. And they basically say, join us, or we'll just strip you of your power and we'll just leave you here. And so she does. And that's sort of her introduction to the True Knot. And they sort of spend their, what do they say? America is the living body, the highways are its arteries, and the True Knot slips along them like a silent virus. They basically live in like RV convoys.
Yes.
They basically just travel up and down the state, but very rich. They're very quietly well-to-do. They say like if they get pulled over, they just have all their paperwork, sort of thing.
That flashback sequence in which they're at the tower when the towers come down.
Yes.
The towers, and they're feeding off of all the tragedy and woe and pain and everything that's
the chaos of September 11th. Which is not weird. It sort of did work, but I guess you don't expect that to come into horror stuff.
No, I didn't. It was a bit sort of like, oh, okay, yeah. I can see why you would do that, but
I guess even now, a week to process, I don't know how to take that particular scene.
Yeah.
So Abra could just spike out, and so I think she comes into contact.
She has a dream, doesn't she?
She touches the milk carton, I think. So
yes.
The Billy Baseball,
That's
the baseball kid goes missing, and we know he's dead, but it's his small hometown. I think Abra lives like a few towns across from him. Just touches the missing picture on a milk carton, and her shine just connects to him or where he was, and she sees the gruesome kidnapping, the torture, what happened, who did what. She just plays out the scene in like a mind movie. That's just one. She's sort of got all the powers, her, and that's, I think, where the True Knot come onto her. They're like, someone's watching.
Rose senses that happening.
We don't know who or what, but someone is watching, and I guess they start connecting at this point. They start. There's very open conversations via telepathy in this, like clear as phone calling.
This is what Danny and Albra, or
all of them.
Abra
and everyone, I guess. Rose, I don't know, but I guess at one point Rose tries to get in her head.
Yes.
And she and Abra just sort of like, get out of my head, and just knocks her from, like, this is from like across, not continents, but states.
A very long space of time.
Just knocks her flying, and it's like, whoa, this is probably the strongest person we've ever encountered with the shine. She's a little at this stage, it's like, let's turn her or eat her.
She could sustain us for years to come. Or
there's an earthquake when she does this. This is Abra's power. The True Knot don't know anything about her or who she is. They just know that there's a child somewhere with the strongest shine ever. So Danny and Abra just get more and more chatty, and eventually they sort of, here's my email, and then they meet up, and then it goes into these nice details, like I guess similar to when I was talking about the Outsider. I don't really think these things just happen in a few pages. It sort of takes its time in a good way, and it takes its time to establish how and why this would work. It's like an 11-year-old girl is going to meet a strange man in a park. He's like, oh man, and she's like, what's a pedo? Why do you think everyone's going to think you're a pedophile? And he's like, oh
yeah.
So they have to come up with this cover story. It's like, tell everyone I'm your uncle. But they're sort of meeting in a park near her home because she's 11. She can't exactly go far. I think she has to, I can't quite remember, sneak off when she's with someone else's house. But we get these little hints all along the way of what the shine can do. I think one of her busybody friends comes and she's like, uh-oh. When she's sitting next to Danny in the park, it's like, this friend is just going to ask everything and want to know who you are. She's just that type of person. So she sort of uses the shine to do the Jedi mind trick. Like, nothing to see here, move along. And just sort of preoccupies her
Yeah.
to just carry on. There's a lot going on in this book at this stage, but basically they're after her. He knows they're after her. What are we going to do? I guess, sorry, I'm just sort of worried about either skipping out key bits or blasing it or what's important. Because I want to say, rounded up, they cat and mouse for the rest of the book. And eventually the good guys win.
It's basically, in essence, yeah. We'll talk about some of the key moments, like one of the things that comes from the conversation between Alba and Danny. Danny gives her almost like he tells her to set traps in the same way that Halloran told Danny to set traps for the ghosts that they end up in the box, in the lockbox. He shares that sort of kind of same nugget of information with Alba, and Alba sets up this trap, which for me is one of the moments in this book that just, like, I got goosebumps now thinking about it. I was reading it on a platform waiting for my train home when I was working in Bath, and I was so engrossed in the book that I forgot to breathe, I forgot to look up, I missed my train, and it's one every 50 minutes or something like that. So I had another 50 minutes of sitting there waiting for this train. It just came into the station and left. It's literally like a meter from the seat that I was in to the edge of the platform where I get in on the train. I've never done that before, but this sequence, I was gone. There was nothing else that mattered but getting to the end of it. And I just remember breathing at the end of it and then looking up and looking at the time going, oh, that was like 10 minutes ago my train left. It was absolutely spectacular. And the moment I'm talking about is when she sets the trap for Rose the Hat for the next time she tries to invade her mind or her sleep. And she turns up as Daenerys on the horse. It just basically beats the shit out of her. It was, oh my God, it was spectacular, that moment. Absolutely incredible. Because Game of Thrones was at its height at the time. So it made sense to me that this little girl was using a character that was in the zeitgeist of, that's the like personification or the persona she took on to just beat down Rose the Hat. And in the dream, Rose tries to go in a drawer, and the drawers have got alarms set, and they slam shut on her hand, and she has to pull her hand out, and it rips all the skin off. And then when she comes back out of this spectral projection, spectral projection that she's doing, she comes back into where she is, and all the skin on her hand's been ripped off in real time. And it was just wonderful. Such a powerful and emotive.
Like they will take the shine to places you did not think it was going to go in this. Like there's, like you said, the spectral thing. Like, I don't know, like a good chunk, most of the end of the book, they're all in different locations, but Alba is just sort of like you said, projecting herself to be sat next to Daniel.
Astral projection.
She can take over people's bodies.
Yeah, she's very, very powerful.
And just a child. She doesn't really know it. She's sort of discovering as she goes along. I guess there's this nice stretch because I guess the middle chunk, we sort of spend like a good 5, like, I don't know, from 3 to 10 with her or something, or 3 to 13. Like she has to sort of suppress it because of her parents. Like from a young age, when she was growing up, she just stuck all the spoons to the roof because she was testing her powers. And she would always know, like, when a phone call was, who was gonna be on the phone. But she could sort of learn early that it spooked out her parents, and to just say that it wasn't happening when she sort of knew it was.
So that's what I liked about it. Like you were saying, the difference between this and what happens in Star Wars with the Force is, in Star Wars they don't build that up. They don't build it in. It's just suddenly this can be done with the Force and this can be done with the Force. It's just like boom. Whereas with Alba, you spend, like you say, from the ages of 3 to 10. And her abilities build throughout that period of time. It's not just suddenly we meet Alba when she's 13 and she can do all of these things. We glean this information at the same time that she does. And I think that's what King does really well in this with the shine. And
I expanding it. She got compared to 11 from Stranger Things. Oh, but in reverse, I think this came out a few years. But I guess that's the Duffer Brothers have openly said we're just taking all our favorite King. Am I right in thinking they were turned down for the It movie? They were like front runners for It, but like, we don't know who you are. You haven't done anything. To come back when you have something. And I mean, I think the It movie is fine, but it turns out the Duffer Brothers are also good.
Very much so.
It came on the ride of Stranger Things potentially, like a lot of that nostalgia.
I think, the Duffer Brothers have done a really good job of taking a massive
King-esque
broad strokes of King's work and implementing it into the Stranger Things. Like from the font they use for the chapters is the same font that he uses in most of his early books and things like that.
Retro.
Yeah. So carry on. Where were you?
Toby, what did you make of the whole True Knot Rose the Hat?
I really liked. I thought they were very vampiric. There were spins on vampires, basically. Yeah, and I thought they were suitably dark. I thought there was enough emotional gravity to the characters and to who they were that you could see why they were doing what they were doing, because they wanted to survive. They're a subspecies of humans that have a unique way of staying alive and existing and continuing to exist a lot longer than everybody else, and they're dying out. So they're trying to save themselves, and the only way they can do that is by inflicting pain on normal people, semi-normal people. So I thought they were well-rounded. I thought there was a lot to them, a lot more than they're the bad guys.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
Me, I didn't hate them, but I did not like them. I've got to be honest. It's like I could put them in any YA novel or movie, and they would fit in just fine.
Yeah.
A bit just edging on too cartoony. Okay. Every single one of them had a name like Rose the Hat. This is Johnny the Thorn.
Yeah. Blackbird.
There's Bobby Four Belts.
Yeah.
And like I said, they dropped them in without really getting to know anyone apart from maybe three of them. I never felt they were sinister.
Oh, okay, that's
okay. Yeah, it's true. They absolutely abducted and tortured and murdered a child, but we don't stay with them for that, if memory serves.
Which
is fine. But despite having characters that can do that, never did they feel sinister. It felt very. There was most of, if not all of, Alba and Rose's dialogue was like, "You little rube, you're a no one. You're a coward. Don't call me a coward. You're a coward." Like, okay. 300 pages later, oh, look, the rube. You think you're all that. You're just a coward. How dare you call me a coward? Like, man, come on. I don't know. I didn't hate them, like I said, but for me...
I can understand what you mean by it. They were caricatures almost of...
Like, think of a YA novel and see if they would slip in. I honestly feel like they would. I don't know. They reminded me of it. I don't know if you've read or seen the movie Miss Pettigrew's Children.
Yes, Peculiar Children. Yeah.
You know, the Dark Materials. I don't know.
I do feel that some of the peripheral parts of the True Knot, they weren't that well rounded, but the key ones, the ones that mattered, were given enough pages to understand. Like Rose the Hat was, I thought was exceptionally menacing, and the two that sort of are around her all the time. She sends one off to go and get Alba, and they end up killing her parents.
She does get at one point.
Yeah, they kill her parents, which I thought was an extremely brutal sequence.
Whose parents?
Alba's parents.
Do they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do, don't they?
No.
Don't they get stabbed? Doesn't her dad get stabbed, and they try and stop her from going missing? And
he never gets murdered. No, everyone. Here's my problem with why I think that in the end they're not particularly sinister. I think everyone lived. No.
Whoa.
None of the good guys die. They get a little wrecked. They get a little shot. Even the old man who's the train driver, who drives to the remains of the Overlook Hotel with Danny as a sort of ruse into the den of the True Knot guy.
Which is a great ending, though, by the way.
Comes out like, oh yeah, I'm going to need a hip replacement, but comes out walking. Like the True Knot never really have the upper hand. Danny and
from
Albert are always on top.
I see. I'm not. I need to go back. I haven't read it for a while. But from my recollection, I thought that her father was killed.
I think he gets shot or stabbed, maybe, but I don't.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. But again, if you could remember, then write it in the comments and clear it up for us. But
I'm sure
I might be completely wrong.
Because they're on to the True Knots plan, and so they have this sort of ruse of like she is going to project herself, as it were, into this park that she's playing, while she's actually in her, I don't know, someone else's house, nice and safe. And then the True Lot rock up at this park, and it's like the dad, Danny, and maybe the doctor, I think, are the three adult players. And so basically waiting with guns and basically wipe out that small sect of the True Knot.
Yeah.
Like Rose isn't there because she's worried that she's become a beacon and she'll give their position away to Abra, not Alba.
Yeah.
I think I've been calling her
Abracadabra, yeah.
Abra, yeah. So yeah, I don't know, like towards this end, like it's very energetic, it's very thrilling, it's very like a race against time, because the True Knot believe they're dying. So there's a sort of race against time for the True Knot to get Abra because they think she can cure them. And as a result, Danny has like, we have to strike first, or we have to protect her, but we can't spend the rest of our lives looking over her shoulder. And I guess this is a callback to the little boy. He's just trying to redeem. Like he does actually genuinely care for him. I think that's something done quite well. Is just the friendships in this. Even when Danny tells Abra, like, now is the time to tell your parents about me, about everything. I'm thinking that's a hard conversation. Mom, I've been meeting a man in the park. We've been talking for a few years now. My life's in danger. There's people after me. And it sort of plays out as you'd expect. The dad's like, fuck this. Who are you? I'm calling the cops. Again, I think having a doctor on board brings gravitas. I think like someone that the dad knows who's a doctor can sort of say, just please listen, and this is all real. We get a few tie-ins, huh? I think they skim past. They say like the True Knot have just like little locations where their power is good. I think Jerusalem's not gets chucked in. I thought.
What did you think to the ending?
The
very, very end.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a bit okay.
Yeah. Because they go back to the
they're on like the
location of
the
overlook,
the hotel, the overlook. It's sort of one of the True Knot's big campgrounds because they move around in these big RVs. I don't know. Actually, the whole end, the finale showdown with Rose was a bit underwhelming. Like I was racing to it because it's, like I said, it's a very high octane ending. Despite the fact
breathless is what I thought.
Yeah, it's weird because it even takes place over a few days. Even when they say we need some sleep and they're waking up and having coffee and talking, it still feels like that you still have that sense of urgency, which is great. And I think one thing you feel is definitely their tiredness. I think because throughout, half of them are getting like drugged by a drug, and they're like, "Oh, we need to move." It's like, yeah, but you can't drive after you've been, knocked out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I thought it was going to be a bit more chunky in the Overlook. It sort of felt like it had its moment and it dealt with it, but that's all it was a moment rather than a scene, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I did really, it took me a little while to adjust to the switching of the pace, like I said.
Yes.
I guess I can see what he's trying to do. Well, not trying to do. I can see why he would want to do this.
Yes.
Like I said, like what else is he going to do unless he's treading old ground?
Yeah, he takes it in a variety of directions.
He takes it in a new direction.
Yeah, completely. I think it needed.
And he does it well. Whether you think, I don't want this to be about this. What is the True Knot? This is bullshit. He still does it well. You can't deny that it's sort of an exciting, fun read. I guess the contrast is just The Shining never felt like that. It's tonally so different to The Shining. But 30, 40 years later, fuck it, let him do what he wants.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, his characters.
I feel like he's still, even in the afterwards, or even the beforehand, maybe, he's still having a dig at Kubrick.
Yeah.
He's like, so I've written a sequel, not to that film everyone else seems to love.
Yeah, yeah, completely.
It's funny, I was listening to a review, I I started off listening to a review of the differences between the book and film. I was like, oh, I'm going to stop because I haven't seen the film. But someone was saying, like, do you think nowadays he seems to stand behind with 2 thumbs up every single adaptation?
Yeah.
Even that really shoddy Dark Tower movie. He's like,
Yeah.
this has me backing it. It's great. Do you think it's like, you know what? I didn't hate The Shining. I just had my issues. And it's been going on for so long and it's dragging. And everyone always asks me about it. I'm just going to say I love it.
Yeah. I think
Especially
it's probably
like,
best. Yeah, completely.
I think someone was saying he would have been like, you know, his second or third book, very young. I think someone was saying they watched the making of and Kubrick didn't really want him on set. He wasn't particularly welcome. He was sort of, I guess, seen as meddling.
Yes.
Bit.
Yeah, completely. And I think when you do watch the film, what Mike Flanagan, the director of Doctor Sleep, the film, does it really well is marry the two. The book, Kubrick's film, and Doctor Sleep.
That's a hell of a
task. He takes all three. It's really tricky, and what he does is really clever, and it's very good. It works very well.
I do need to talk about Halloran.
Yes.
Effing hell! Come on, that was shit. I was
what happened to him? I
disappointed.
Can't remember.
They sort of lose contact. I think when he slips into like drinking alcohol, he says, like, my mum probably knew, but chose not to say anything. But I couldn't look Dick in the face. And I just grew up, you know, what was I supposed to do? Keep in contact with this guy. So he sort of thinking of his age then, he'd have to be like 90 now or 80. But he's like, but people sometimes live that long.
Yeah.
But he does find out he died. And 3 characters and they're all dying off set. Come on. And like I said, Halloran was my favorite. King, if you're listening, honestly, Halloran running around the Vietnam War with the shine. Come on, that's somewhere in there is gold. Come on, think about, you know, he loved like El Cuco. There's got to be some cool Vietnamese folklore horror you can play with Halloran and the shine and the times
Maybe you
of
should
the
write
war
it.
and the racial. Yeah, I was
Fan
thinking about going
fiction.
to some sort of fan site, but
yeah.
So when he needs his help, he goes to one of his dying patients, sort of, and in their dying breath, he sort of, I don't know, maybe he's called actually. He's either called or he calls, but the ghost of Halloran like comes out in shining steam format.
Right, I can't remember this bit at all.
And you know how when you're watching like Ghostbusters, like, oh, there's the Bill Murray cameo, or you're watching, I don't know, like one of these soft reboots, and it has the cameos. This felt like that.
Right. Okay.
And so Halloran comes out and he basically has some questions. He's like, who are the true not? Who's Alba? What do I do? And Halloran's like, man, I'm dead. It's just like a dream in a dream. I can't stay long, but here's some wise. I guess I wouldn't say this now, but considering how people felt about a lot of King's early work, like, here's some magic black guy advice. But now I'd say he's a bit Obi-Wan Kenobi-ish, but and then he goes, and I hated that.
Okay.
It just felt like
I don't really remember it, so that's probably a testament.
The movie cameo, where, like, out of respect to the actor, we're bringing him in, sort of thing. There are some heartbreaking scenes in this. One of the giveaways that people are dying or something is wrong with them are flies. He'll see flies that other people can't see. So when his friend is like a bit sick, he knows it's like, you need to get checked, just get screened. Maybe it's cancer, maybe it's early enough to treat. There's just 2 or 3 flies on his face when they're talking, for example. When he's in the hospice, there's no flies. He thinks it's like, it's just too obvious. They're definitely dying. The shine doesn't need to tell him they're dying. But sometimes he can be around people with like 10 or 20 flies. And it's like, this guy has cancer or something bad has happened to this guy soon. And then where is it? It says, Dan, however, had laid sleepless most of the previous night and wouldn't take no for an answer. He might have if he'd been convinced it was too late. He didn't think it was. He had seen the flies before and learned to gauge their meaning. A swarm of them, enough to obscure a person's features behind a veil of nasty jolting bodies, and you knew there was no hope. A dozen or so meant something might be done. Only a few, and there was definitely time. There had been only 3 or 4 on Billy's face. He never saw any of them on the faces of the terminal patients at the hospice. Dan remembered visiting his mother 9 months before her death on the day when she had also claimed to feel fine, in a pink, absolutely tickety-boo. What are you looking at, Danny? Wendy Tolerance had asked. Have I got a smudge? She had swiped comically at the tip of her nose, her fingers passing right through the hundreds of death flies that were covering her chin to her hairline like a caul. Man, that breaks, like, suddenly this is like midway in the book or something. Danny had to really suffer when his mum died. You know what I mean? Just that image of his mum being covered in hundreds of flies for like 9 months, right? Stuff like that. But I don't know. But
horrible, harrowing.
But then to not have her die, not have us there when she dies and him there.
See, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. Like that is enough for me. That tugs on the heartstrings, and it leaves enough to the imagination to be able to warrant the off-camera death. I don't need to spend more time with her dying to know that was painful, what he went through. That paragraph you just read there was enough context.
It's just that, I guess for me, that's echoes of like his early Shining writing, for example, where just, one small paragraph can just churn my stomach and just stay with me. I think the description of the lady in the bathtub who has a name, she's one of the key ghosts that's floating around in this one. Just her rotting flesh, swollen belly description is just stuck with me after all this time.
Do they come back at the end of this book?
So I thought, because there's a lot of like them knowing the plan and winking at us, the audience, without us knowing. It's like at one point, Abra draws something on the chalkboard and we have to get this object. And then he's going out of his way to not tell us what this object is, not for ages, but I guess to give us suspense in scenes where there's no real villain. And I think that turns out to be like Billy's baseball glove or something. Because if once they find her baseball glove, Abra can touch that and connect with the true knot. And so at the end, it's all about the plan. I think to get the parents to agree, they have to sort of pretend it's going to be a plan A, but Danny and Abra have their own sort of secret plan, which is plan B. I thought he had the entire Overlook in trunks in his mind. I thought he was going to unlock the twist would be like he's been collecting he's been haunted all his life, and he had like hundreds of lock boxes with different ghosts, and he was just going to unlock them all somehow. Kind of, but no, I think when we get there in the end, there's still only like 2 or 3. And he does unlock them to sort of throw them off. I think one of them does get taken out. I guess if you're a true knot, you're in a different plane of existence, and the ghosts are just stronger on you and drawn to you. I think there's someone hiding in a shed that gets taken out by Lath Eddie. And this was a bit obscure, but so you would like, does his dad come back in this? Yeah. Like when he's tussling with Rose. And I think Abra is in his body. I don't know. It got a little, not convoluted, but where is everyone here? I'm not sure if Abra was in his body or just astral projecting and helping out. But they're sort of tussling on some sort of balcony lookout, because the hotel's not there. It's now a camping ground. And I guess just when Rose has the upper hand, there's like a shot that rings out, and she sort of falls and then slowly dies after like cursing them like a Scooby-Doo fan. And so the sort of book wraps up. You're like, what was that shot? I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And then just as Danny's leaving, he turns around one last time just to see that the ghost of his dad sort of waving.
For my recollection, it doesn't. I thought Jack Torrance pushes Rose off the balcony, comes in and goes. Poof. But
maybe I don't know, because there's definitely no guns there. This is what was odd. I'm like, where did that shot come from? Or maybe it was shock. Maybe you are 100% right. It does make sense. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Why did Danny's dad come back with a gun? And shoot with distance?
That's it. He was not a sniper.
That makes more sense. It almost felt like he's letting go of his issues with his dad, but the fact that it was his dad's ghost, I don't know. I have a bit mixed feelings like this. I don't mind his dad's ghost being there, but just flat out helping and being a good guy. I don't know. again,
Yeah,
it
I
just could have
can
eked some
understand
more
where you're coming
emotion out
from.
of this somewhere. It was surprisingly very unemotional moment for that.
For me, in both the book and when I saw it on film, is that when he opens that chest and all of the repressed memories of the Overlook come pouring out and just seize on Rose and just tear her to pieces and start ploughing in on her and feeding off of her the same way that she's fed off of all of her victims was so satisfying. It was a great ending. And then for her to be sort of like one last grab and it to be Danny's dad, Jack, just go, get out of here. Leave my son alone was get in there. But like you say, it's very sort of heroic, filmic.
Did his dad earn that? I thought that
I think
the
so.
perfect ending for the dad in The Shining was exactly what happened. Like he has his hands around Danny's throat. Danny's like, "It's take off your mask or what have you." Like Dad, come back. This isn't you. And he just has enough strength to bash his own face in. That's how he helps. He's like Riley in Midnight Mass. How you help is just by standing aside and let everyone else getting on. So the hero stuff doesn't suit you. Almost a bit of fan service, I guess. I don't know.
For sure.
I didn't hate it, but it just like it stuff like that is what made this like a non-classic. I don't know if time will be not kind to this novel. I think the people who don't like it because it's not The Shining are never going to come around to it, and the people who did like it,
that's completely agree.
Like I said, as much as I love the first sect of this, the second half turns into just really good thriller land. There's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like in time it will be, have you read The Shining? Oh god, it's so good, and there's a sequel. I don't feel like people will talk about this in any of the same light.
I remember at the time a lot of reviews were very sort of not negative, but like you, kind of like didn't really need to exist. The Shining was perfectly great on its own. Did we really need a sequel? It's okay. It's like, not great.
This is a sequel to Danny, not The Shining, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely agree. But I thoroughly enjoyed this book at the time of reading it. And like I said, there was many a time. It was like the best of Dan Brown, if you would, with his every page leaves you with a hook and wants you to go to the next page. That's how this book felt to me. It was a throwback to some of the best King that I've read, like The Dark Half and things like that, because I was there in that moment, in that world, with these characters, fully believing it and didn't want to get out. And it probably had one of the strongest hooks of any of the King, more recent King books that I've read.
This, for me, feels like the first page turner of his I've read in a long time.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Actually, my other page turners, I think a lot of people wouldn't like, that's a bit obscure. I really like Insomnia.
Okay.
I know. I think it does have good reviews, but it's something that's very easy forgotten about him. On reflection, I'm like, they clearly had the shine, or another level of the kind of shine-ish. But yeah, I know it's easy for me to say, well, I was on a train. What was I going to do for 5 hours? But you can't just say I'm going to do that, and it's easy when the book's not very readable or good or interesting.
You can see why I was excited.
One thing, I don't know, I guess it does work, but when we read The Outsider, bit of a spoiler for The Outsider here, I was like, I'm a bit not sick of, but I don't think I want to read another fearmonger, like succubus thing that feeds off fear. You said, well, I'd really like to get what you thought of Dr. Sleep. I thought it's like the equivalent of going, I should check out Misery. None of that stuff there is completely different.
No.
If I'd have read this right after The Outsider, I would have been annoyed at you, Toby. Oh, you're lucky there was a big gap there.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, because it's basically what they are. Yeah. No, it's I agree. Definitely one of the most page turnery books of his. Probably up to The Outsider, actually. The Outsider was quite a page turner for me.
Okay, yeah. not quite on this level, but I did really
Mhm.
enjoy the process of reading The Outsider for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's just unexpected levels of unexpectedness. I think that's the new.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Like it went the opposite. Like
Exactly.
it sped up when The Shining slowed down, and vice
Mhm.
versa. Yeah, I would honestly say half a classic, half a great read, or king.
Oh, King, yes, yeah. I think it's probably the most positive we've been. It
Has he
feels like
done
it's the
many
most
sequels?
positive. That's a good question.
I guess Mr. Mercedes has a couple.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't read that, but without spoiling it, is Mr. Mercedes 3 parts of a book, or is it 3 separate books? If that
No,
makes
it's
sense.
3 separate books.
Okay. I guess The Dark Tower has many a sequel, but that's
Yeah.
meant to be a series, right? Like,
yeah. There's just 3. Yeah, 3 books of. It's a crime novel with 3 different stories in, with the central characters being the same.
right, like Sherlock style.
Yes, exactly.
The further cases of Hodges.
And they're actually quite good as well. Page turners.
That's the other one
Not
you've
as-
mentioned that you want me to read.
Yeah,
Every
some point.
episode.
No, definitely no succulents in the Mercedes trilogy.
You heard it here first.
No, there's definitely none.
Um,
I'm trying to remember if I'm completely
But I mean,
correct or not.
even that, it didn't go too hard into that.
No.
It didn't feel overdone, even though it was like, I do it again. It was more like the fear is in the moment. I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, despite the fact he's used it a lot, this particular book, for reasons I guess I can't fathom, because we do spend a lot of time with the True Knot, it didn't feel overdone.
No.
It's just surprising.
I'm pleased you read it. I'm pleased you enjoyed it more than anything, because I was very fearful going into this that you were going to come back as a slide of dross, but you didn't, and that's quite good. I'm pleased about that. So yeah, there we go. Dr. Sleep.
What did you think at home listening? We need to do this. I was watching a video on like, what point should you ask for likes and subscribes? It's really early on. It's in like it's basically do an intro, like give them a hook, then do the like and subscribe and comment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not right at the end. Smash that like button.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I don't want it superficial. Don't like it if you didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you didn't make it to the end, I don't know.
It's because they were drunk, apparently.
I mean,
because that's all our listeners are, drunks.
Drunks. Steve, what's next?
So yes, thank you very much for listening, and join us again soon for more book by book, whichever one comes out next. Thank you very much. This is
Bye. Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.